The Department of Defense takeover of SpaceX Starship. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning and focus combination. So good, so good. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a technology day. Today's a government day. We're going to be talking about SpaceX Starship and how the US government, or the DOD, the Department of Defense, wants to take it over, at least on some missions, literally own it. I know it sounds absolutely ludicrous and crazy, but it is the facts. So we want to talk about it a little bit today. But before I get into it, I want to say that if you enjoyed this content, even in the least, throw it a thumbs up. That would be very helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. If you are, thank you. Click this little button over here so when I go live and when a new video comes out, you'll be notified of it immediately. And if you want to say thank you for all of my hard work, there's a little thank you button. Click on that. Give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, that's perfectly fine. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. So I'm going to be getting into an article that I found. I think it's Aviation Week out of Orlando, I believe. And I want to read some of this article to you, give you my commentary, but most importantly, down below, I want to hear your thoughts about this, because by the end of this video, you're going to know my thoughts and you're going to know my feelings on this. Everyone runs on feelings and beliefs these days, right? Once again, it is not about me, it's about us. Let's have that conversation down below. So the article starts out by saying, the Pentagon has approached SpaceX about potentially taking over Starship for sensitive and potentially dangerous missions as a government-owned, government-operated asset instead of contracting the company to launch payloads. Are you kidding me? Government-owned, government-operated, due to what? Potentially dangerous missions or sensitive missions. The company has been exploring its options and responding. Gary Henry, a senior advisor with SpaceX, told an audience at the Space Mobility Conference here, January 30th. Here, once again, that is Orlando, Florida, just up the road, about 3 hours from us, near the Space Coast, where SpaceX Starlink is, where SpaceX's facilities are. Quote, SpaceX is already on contract for the development of the Department of Air Force's rocket cargo mission to deliver cargo point to point through space. But this is beyond that plan, Henry says. Quote, we have had conversations and it has come down to specific missions where it is very specific and sometimes elevated risk and maybe a dangerous use case for the DOD where it has to ask themselves, quote, do we need to own it as a particular asset? SpaceX, can you accommodate that? Hell no. I digress. We've been exploring all kinds of options to kind of deal with those questions, he said. He meaning Gary Henry, the senior advisor over there at SpaceX. The idea is similar to how the Air Force moves cargo. At times, the service contracts with private carriers to deliver cargo, but for certain critical missions, it uses, quote, gray tail aircraft. Basically, gray tail meaning like an OEM or a non-disclosed aircraft. They would be outside of the FAA or any type of regulatory approval or legal framework or anything. It would be government, period. We do whatever the hell we want. That's how gray tail would work. Anyways, it continues. In this hypothetical case, the military could take a Starship offline for a specific mission and then return it to SpaceX after it is complete. Colonel Eric Felt, Director of Space Architecture for the Office of the Secretary of the Air Force for Space Acquisition and Integration. Man, the government is like so wordy when it comes to these agencies. The Office of the Secretary of the Air Force for the Space Acquisition and Integration. Anyways, says certain concepts of operation could be relevant for a government-owned, government-operated space vehicle. Quote, if we can buy the commercial service, that's what we're going to do. But there might be some use case where there needs to be a government-owned, government-operated vehicle, and that transfer could happen on the fly. This is what Felt said. The director of the space architecture and the long-winded, all the rest of it, right? This is what Felt said. So they want to take SpaceX Starship. They want to take it, right? Now, is it going to be for one instance, one occurrence? That's what they say. They want to take ownership and then they'll give it back. Are you f***ing kidding me? I would tell these people, the DOD and the government, to go and pound sand. That's what I would do if I was the advisor. Now, that being said, I've talked about this in the past. I've talked about Ford being nationalized and the possibility. And I dug in a little bit deeper into this whole nationalization thing. And is it possible? And has it happened in the past? And according to my research, nationalization hasn't happened, or nationalization as a term hasn't happened, but it has happened. When I was doing some research, I found that in 1917, this WBI organization, this War Industries Board, was established. And it basically controlled what different industries were producing to produce basically war materials. So they did acquire, they did nationalize companies like Aluminum Company of America. Why? Because they needed a lot of aluminum for the war effort. They also nationalized all railroads. Even though they didn't call it nationalization, they nationalized all railroads. All railroads were government owned or government operated during war, World War I, World War II, right? And why did they do that? For transporting not only troops, but materials, tanks, trucks, whatever. Also, the United States Steel, U.S. Steel, nationalized. All steel production during that time went straight to the war effort. Same thing with Western Union. Western Union back then was a big thing. Telegrams, how to communicate, right? They wanted to make sure the war effort was priority, number one. They didn't want Betty talking to Sue about a cake. They wanted to make sure that all telecoms were going straight to the war effort. Now, I always bring up Ford as being nationalized. And I found out that I was wrong. They weren't nationalized. But so they say. Just like the rest of these companies, they say they weren't nationalized, but they were. Now, Ford, I found out Ford, or Henry Ford, was extremely against the war. He didn't want to have anything to do with war, right? Well, what happened? World War II happened. And Henry Ford and all of his plants basically started producing war materials. They stopped producing any vehicles. They were retrofitted to produce trucks, tanks, military aircraft engines, so on and so forth. But they weren't nationalized, right? So how do they do this? WIB, maybe? Right? Basically, this organization carries a massive stick. And it probably went something like this. Henry, take the money, shut your damn mouth, be a good citizen and contribute to the war, or we're going to nationalize your company. We're going to take it. And you're not going to get that large sum of money that we want to give you. You're going to get nothing because we're just going to take it. And then we'll give it back to you when we see fit, when the war is over, whenever that is. So what did Henry do? Like a smart businessman, he said, I'm against the war, but you know what? I don't want my company taken. So there you go. So he got a lot of money from the government to do that, to produce trucks and tanks and military everything, plane, aircraft, engines, and all the rest. So while Ford was not nationalized, they were. Now, some of you guys would think, well, maybe this WIB can do the exact same thing with SpaceX. Not really, because the WIB was disbanded right after the war, as it should have been. But now who is wielding that big, heavy, massive stick? The DLA. which is the Department of Logistics Agency, as well as the DOD, which is the Department of Defense. Those are the two agencies that have that massive stick that can basically coerce people into doing anything that they want, or companies into nationalization without nationalizing. Once again, do this, keep your mouth shut, and we're going to give you all of this money, or we're just simply going to take your company. And once again, we're going to give it back to you when we see fit, when the war is over. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I can tell you one thing. They're going up against Elon Musk, which is, no matter if you love him or hate him, you have to respect him. And you have to understand that he definitely does what he wants to do and not what the government or any other agency or anyone wants him to do. And a perfect example of that is when he bought Twitter, right? Turned into X. And then Disney, for example, who was advertising on Twitter and then advertising on X, said, listen, we want you to do this, 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 and this. We don't want you to do this or show that or whatever. And what did he say? Publicly, during an interview, he said, go f*** yourself. That's what he said. Now that's no uncertain terms. That's what he said, word for word. Go f*** yourself. I am not going to be blackmailed by you or anyone else. I will do with my company as I wish. And if you don't want to advertise, don't. I will not be blackmailed.
Leaving, we talked to Bob Iger today.
I hope they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go f*** yourself.
But
Go f*** yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
well, let me ask you then.
That's how I feel. Don't advertise.
How do you think then about the economics of X? If part of the underlying model, at least today, and maybe it needs to shift, maybe the answer is it needs to shift away from advertising. If you believe that this is the one part of your business where you will be beholden to those who have this view, what do you do?
F-Y. I'm saying what I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil. F*** them.
How many people and how many companies have the balls, the funding, the inclination to stand up like that? Not many. You could probably count them all on one hand, right? So like I said, no matter if you love them or hate them, we need to have some people like that, right? That actually stand up, because we're just kind of like dust in the wind. I mean, we can articulate, we can commentate, we can bring awareness to, but that's it. You know, our power is very limited. Whereas someone like that has the means, the wherewithal, the inclination, they can actually get something done. And I think that that's what's going to end up happening here. He's not going to give his spacecraft over to the government or any other agency in hopes of getting it back in a timely manner and push his efforts back. He's just simply not going to do it. They're going to stymie. They're going to drag him through the mud. They're going to stifle him and all the rest. But what they should do is play nicely with him and allow SpaceX's Starship to be launched quicker, as what is going on currently in China, whereas China is developing their own SpaceX Starlink, for example. They're launching all the damn time, and basically stop hindering him and then just contract with him. Don't try to take it over, because it's simply not going to happen unless you actually nationalize it. Because not even with the large, heavy stick is it going to work, as what we saw with the WIB, or the War Industry Board, how they carried that heavy stick. It's just simply not going to happen. This WIB, or maybe MIB, with little black glasses, right? It's just, they're not going to be able to do it. The DOD is not going to be able to do it. The DLA, they're not going to be able to do it. They're just simply not going to do it because he will say no, because he doesn't need or want the money. Whereas Henry Ford, he still went through with it because he said, you know what? I need the money. And that's it. They're going to take me over anyways. I'll take the money. I really don't think that Elon Musk will do that. I don't think so. I don't think that they would be able to take him over unless they actually did a full nationalization. And that's not even a false flag nationalization where they just come up with this maybe cyber war and they need his machinery immediately for something, some special mission, dangerous mission, as they call it, super sensitive, G14 classified, or whatever bullshit that they come up with, right? So anyways, guys, I want to know what you think about that. Do you think that Elon Musk would ever give over SpaceX's Starship to the government for X number of missions where they're literally owned and operated by the government? I mean, if they were ever to take over SpaceX, right? If I was Elon, I would get rid of everybody. I would give them a company, a hollow shell, right? I would take the egg, put a little hole in it, suck out everything and give them that hollow shell. That's what I'd give them. Nobody. And I would let NASA and the government scientists and workers do whatever they do with Starship and see how that goes over. See if they ever get the damn thing off the ground without blowing it up, right? They're not going to be able to take care of it. They're not going to be able to maintain it. They're not going to be able to operate it. Once again, I would take everyone. Give them that hollow shell. Anyways, that's my personal opinion. I want to know yours, because once again, yours is more important than mine. We're having this discussion down below. I really want to hear from you. Anyways, guys, if you want more Starlink content, I put together a playlist. Go check that out right now. I have about 240 some videos, helpful how-tos, tips, tricks, what to buy, what not to buy, why. This channel is always about the why, not just the how. Also, if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks, pick them up. They are free. Go to JCristina.com/books. Once again, JCristina.com/books. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you over the very many years, and my teas and merch and everything else. Pick something up if you would like to. I'd really appreciate it. And many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love y'all. To deliver cargo point to point through space, but it is beyond that plan, Harry said. Quote, not Harry, Henry.